Julia Dusky, Decoding Fox News. So this is the last video in the series that I made based off of 155 episodes, old episodes that is, of Fox News from February 2022 until just a couple weeks ago. So this is everything based off of the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. Now this first video that you're going to see is curated based off of just how many times Trump was directly related to this. And you can see, especially with like Sean Hannity, how defensive he is about Trump's association with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Jeffrey Epstein and Donald J. Trump were close friends for about 15 years, and they had parties together. They kind of had similar personalities in some way, at least of how they treated women. So there's a lot of skeeviness that happened, and there's video of them like at a party just dancing when there's like, 30 women and they're the only two guys there, and they invited all the women. So lots of creepy. But yeah, here's the first round of videos that were about Donald J. Trump and how Fox News just keeps trying to like pay no attention to the completely obvious. Here we go.
She said she was once flying on Epstein's plane, and they made an unplanned stop in Atlantic City because Jeffrey said, "Great, we're going to call up Trump," and so then they went to visit Trump at the casino. Exactly.
But didn't she say she wasn't sure which casino it was?
Oh, didn't know that, but it did know it was Trump.
And as for former President Trump, well, his name does come up in the papers. He knew Epstein in New York for many years. Joanna said that she, Epstein, Giuffre, and Maxwell once visited one of Trump's Atlantic City casinos, that in 2001. And in her deposition, Joanna was asked a very direct and blunt question, Sean. Quote, "Did you ever massage Donald Trump?" Her answer was no. Sean?
And there was other mentions of Trump during the deposition. Did you ever see Trump at Jeffrey's home? Not that I can remember. On his island? No, not that I can remember. In New Mexico? No, not that I can remember. In New York? No, not that I can remember. So for those people always looking to go after Donald Trump.
To Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump actually provided information to the lawyer of some of these victims that ended up checking out. He did it without having to be deposed. He didn't fight a subpoena like Bill Clinton did. Yeah. And it was his Department of Justice that ended up arresting Jeffrey Epstein.
Understandable difference. And on the Epstein issue, wasn't it Donald Trump? He booted Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago nearly 20 years ago, because he was one of the first people to realize just how horrible Epstein really was.
It'll be interesting. I looked at some of the polling. The only reason I looked at it is because it was fascinating to me.
Because you're scared.
No, I'm not scared at all about it. Democrats, 3% of Democrats are satisfied with the outcome of the Epstein thing, and 4% of Republicans. And 52% of Democrats are not satisfied, and 53% of Republicans are not. This is the issue that has united Democrats and Republicans here in the last go-around.
Yep. So this next video is based off Ghislaine Maxwell, and you'll notice that nobody can seem to pronounce her name the same way. Everybody uses like a different version. Closest I've heard is Ghislaine, that I've heard that the most frequently. So Ghislaine was the co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein. She was also criminally charged with sex trafficking, among a number of other crimes. She had a trial by a jury of her peers. She had due process, she had very expensive lawyers, and she was found guilty. And she was sentenced to 20 years in a federal prison. Now this gets interesting because Donald J. Trump sent the Deputy Attorney General, which is Todd Blanche, who was also his personal attorney, or one of his personal attorneys, down to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell to sort of discuss this Jeffrey Epstein list. Now, I don't know why you would do that. That doesn't really make any sense, because if she had anything, she would have definitely given it up if it could have saved her. If she had dirt on somebody, if she had some sort of power to throw somebody else under the bus, this is what criminals do. They will do it in a heartbeat because they usually get a better deal. So as far as I know of her trial, that did not occur. She didn't have dirt on anybody. She didn't have the little black book. She didn't have a list of names, nothing like that. She just, tried to defend herself and was found guilty, went to prison. Ghislaine Maxwell has already been moved from a maximum security federal prison to a minimum security federal prison, which is kind of evil, because minimum security is for like white collar crime, not for violent offenders, and she's very much considered a violent offender. Sex trafficking is considered a violent crime. So this is just the brief times that Ghislaine Maxwell got brought up. And I can say this, I think this with full confidence. If Trump does pardon this woman, the faction of MAGA that was angry about this will lose their ever-loving minds. So here we go.
Interesting is Ghislaine Maxwell hasn't killed herself yet, but lawyers are claiming there have been attempts to have her killed in prison. But shut up, look away, look away!
Ghislaine Maxwell has been sentenced to 20 years in prison for helping financier Jeffrey Epstein sexually abuse underage girls. Prosecutors say Epstein, who allegedly killed himself back in 2019 while awaiting trial, couldn't have committed the crimes without the help of Maxwell, his longtime companion.
None of these people, whether they committed a crime or not, none of these people get points for not sleeping with underage girls. I mean, that's not something that speaks to your credit. The question here is, what were all of these powerful people doing in this very sordid world? I covered Ghislaine Maxwell's trial in federal court. I was in the courthouse. It is a deeply troubling world that this man created for himself. And I have real questions as to what all these people were doing in that environment.
Yeah, and to that point, Dave, you know, it's...
And Ghislaine Maxwell is not in prison primarily for having touched anyone. She's in prison for having enabled all of this.
This is what her brother is saying in a statement. She would be putting before a court material new evidence that was not available to the defense at her 2021 trial, which would have had a significant impact on its outcome. Is she going to get something in return? I mean, there's really no motivation to talk with the feds unless she gets some type of deal. What could that deal be?
Right, Lawrence, that's really the key question here.
So the last video of this entire crazy project, there's 18 total, no kidding. Again, 155 episodes of Fox News, went through every single reference I could find for Epstein and put this curated list together. This is Greg Gutfeld. And again, this is 3.5 years worth of coverage after a search for the word Epstein. And in almost every single instance, it's Greg Gutfeld making a terrible joke about Jeffrey Epstein. That's it. That's all he contributed, not much more than that. And at the very end of this clip, he starts to tear into Jessica Tarloff because he claims that, you know, Democrats weren't taking this seriously like good Republicans. And then he, you know, gets really angry because, you know, they're not taking this seriously. And I'm thinking, dude, why did you make so many terrible, terrible, terrible jokes about this then? Here we go.
Which Epstein? The one from Welcome Back, Kotter?
Yeah,
Okay.
Larry Epstein.
No, it's not. How dare they? If they only talked about the weather, Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky were only playing Yahtzee. All right? Jeffrey Epstein was just running an orphanage on that island. It's the first I heard of Stephen Hawking being accused of sex with underage girls.
Yes.
I guess he really did prefer a brief history of time. All right. Reports claim that Jeffrey Epstein tried to stop a rumor that he once invited Stephen Hawking to the island for a conference, which led to his alleged underage orgy.
Ew.
Which seems like a ridiculous rumor since kids rarely eat their vegetables. I'd hate to see how she treats people she really hates. I'd ask Epstein, but he's not around to answer that question. That's like answering, when did you know Epstein was a pedophile? Oh, on my 4th trip.
And they just disappear, and it's very frustrating for the American people. Yeah, I mean, I said Epstein. It's like
we're still talking about in 60 years, and we probably will still be talking about.
Well, at least we solved the Epstein controversy.
We'll see what happens.
You know who else couldn't read in prison, Greg?
Who?
Epstein.
Oh,
because he died.
Wow, yeah, he was just too busy hanging out. Look,
Doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, no. Have you been listening to the right lately? The right is more on top of Epstein than the Democrats are. The Democrats never cared about Epstein until they saw a political motivation. The right was into the Epstein story because women were being sex trafficked. We actually cared. But now you're like, ooh, Epstein, a political angle. Ooh, this is fantastic.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video and you want to see more content like it, please like and subscribe and share this video as it helps bring more traffic to this channel. Decoding Fox News is also on pretty much every social media platform except for TikTok. Not a huge fan of that platform. They don't seem to quite understand what I do. And I'm 100% supported by people just like you. There's some links in the description of this video if you want to become a paid subscriber, paid supporter to Decoding Fox News. But again, just sharing this video also helps. Thank you so much.